Saltburn was directed by Emerald Fennell, who also did Promising Young Woman a few years ago, which was a movie that I really liked. It was in fact in my top movies of that year. And this one stars Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, Rosamund Pike, amongst a plethora of other actors. In this one we follow Oliver, played by Keoghan, who's just showed up to university in 2006, and he seems to be a little bit lost. He doesn't quite know exactly how to get around just yet. However, he becomes friends with Felix Catton, played by Jacob Elordi, who has a big house in the middle of the country called Saltburn, where he lives with his very bizarre family, and eventually he goes there for a vacation, and that just spirals into something else completely insane. And I don't really know if I want to say exactly what that is, because I'd rather you just watch the film. I saw this 3 days ago. I went and saw it with a friend of mine. In fact, I heard a lot of hype and buzz about it, and naturally, having seen Promising Young Woman, there was some bit of interest into how this was going to turn out. But I haven't reviewed it for the last 3 days for many reasons. One of them being I didn't really know how to talk about it, because there's so much in this movie that is so crazy and it is so bizarre, and I genuinely had an issue figuring out what I thought about the movie itself. This is not something that's happened for the first time on this channel. There are several movies I've talked about where I've often felt like it's not as easy as to, do a pros and cons list, because in this case, there are things about the movie that I like. I think they work really well. I think there are some things that don't work as well, but I'm glad that I saw it. It's somewhat what I said about Beau is Afraid earlier in the year. It's a movie that I couldn't really decide whether or not I loved or hated it, but there was so much in it that I think was so bold and so much of a swing that I kind of had to step back and still go, well, I respect what's been done here. And I have the same kind of thing with Saltburn as well. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case for everybody. I know this because I know some other friends have seen the movie, and there is a pretty much split down the line when it comes to opinions. Either half my friends absolutely hated this movie, or half my friends absolutely loved this movie. And it seems like that's kind of where the critical consensus also seems to be. People who liked Saltburn really liked Saltburn. People who did not like Saltburn really hated Saltburn. And so it becomes a very interesting conversation of extremes. But I'll tell you what I did like about this movie, and that is once again Emerald Fennell's direction. This is a very confident storyteller who absolutely does not shy away from going absolutely bonkers and insane when it comes to some things, and I love that you can sort of see that on screen at the same time. There's definitely things in here which feel like they have taken inspiration from things. The biggest one that you're going to hear from people is Teorema, which is a Pasolini movie from the 60s. There's definitely a lot of that in here. I actually saw that for the first time only last year, and so there are things in that having seen this movie I can equate to that one, and if you have seen that, then you'll definitely see the parallels. At the same time, there's also a lot of mid-2000s, early 2000s teen comedy drama stuff going on in here. Emerald Fennell has stated that one of her favorite movies of all time is Cruel Intentions. There's definitely hints of that in here, even when it comes to some of the stylistic and, filmmaking choices. The soundtrack is seeped in the mid-2000s. There are so many songs that you're going to hear, and they're going to take you through this insane trip down memory lane. At the one point, it'll make you feel great because it'll be like, oh, hey, haven't heard that in forever. And at the same time, it'll make you realize you're old because, wow, been forever, hasn't it? Like, that song is almost 20 years old. That's insane. Barry Keoghan is great once again. He does an excellent job in this movie as Oliver. In fact, the acting across the board is outstanding. Everybody does a really great job. He is exceptional in it, and I think he's one of the best actors that we have right now. I think Jacob Elordi is great in this. This is the second movie in the last 1 month which I've talked about with him. The other one was Priscilla. I thought he was fantastic here. Rosamund Pike is very bizarre in this movie, but I mean that in a good way. She does some really wild stuff when it comes to her character just having conversations. And it's just a lot of fun to witness some of that. Same thing with Richard E. Grant. Archie Madekwe, who was in Gran Turismo earlier this year, he's also really good. But one of the surprises of this movie, and I'm trying to remember if I've seen her in anything else, is Alison Oliver. She plays the sister in the Catton family. Like, she's someone who is also a very bizarre character, someone very twisted at times. And the moments that she has with Kyogen and other characters as the film progresses, I thought she was really, really good in the movie, and I would say she's kind of a standout, in fact, sort of a secret MVP. So I give credit to that. As I mentioned, it is beautifully filmed and directed, some excellent cinematography and production on display. They've used some amazing stuff when it comes to the actual house that they filmed in, and I think they did a really, really good job with that. Now, that being said, where the movie does eventually become a bit of a coin flip is in how it's telling its story. Because it goes in some very extreme places, in some really bizarre places, that I can see it being interpreted as either something that's trying to be very unique and original, but at the same time it's just being very, pretentious and pathetic, or whatever it is you want to say. And that's kind of why I have an issue sort of assigning a numbered grade to it, and I don't think I will, because I think this is a movie that I feel like it really just does come down to what you're going to get from it. I think there is a story in here which, when it comes to the end, I think it works really well. I think there's another version of this story which also includes commentaries on, the class divisions in society and certain other things that Fennel wants to sort of hone in on, which are not as effective. And I think the movie sometimes tries to do so much with those elements that not everything lands. And yes, it does include a lot of those parallels to movies that I've mentioned. You will see a lot of those things really do come up. But at the same time, like I said, you could also look at this as something that is just bold enough to the fact that I'm glad a major studio like MGM, or Amazon MGM, if we're really being honest now, is being able to put this out in a theater. It's a pretty big, swing for a studio to do something like this. So in that way, it is also something that I celebrate. So I don't know, the thoughts are all over the place. Throughout the movie, my reactions went from fascinated, disgusted, revolted, to euphoric at times, to disgusted, to surprised. Like, the movie does sort of run through these things, and, I think there are a few ways you can, again, like I said, interpret how you feel about that. And so I feel like this is not more of a review, this is a suggestion video to just go take a look, because I really don't know how everyone's gonna feel about this movie. I would just suggest giving it a try. Maybe you'll really like what Saltburn does. Maybe by the end of the movie, you'll be clapping and cheering and having a blast with it. Or you might think it's awful and walk out of it thinking, I just wasted whatever, $15 on a ticket or whatever that is, and I don't want to see this ever again. That could also happen. There's a very likely scenario that this does, however, develop somewhat of a cult following over time. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. It has all the makings of one. There is definitely a world in the future where this movie is regarded as an understated masterpiece. It might just happen. Or not. It's just forgotten to the annals of time. That could also happen. That said, it does have two sequences that are among the most riotous of the year, so that's worth seeing. So you should definitely go look at that. There are things, like I said, I liked about this movie overall, but there are some things that I feel like do hold it back. But I'm glad that I had the experience that I did. And I feel like that's something that I'm going to cherish a lot more. The fact that I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad that there are chances like this being taken. And so, again, go check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. And as always, if you like this, please do subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the movies.